BlackRock takes over the World Economic Forum, a town on the East Coast underwater, and radioactive shrimp. We're going to be covering all of these news stories in today's video, but I want to start things off with a rather interesting story. I'm sure you know that Elon Musk has been talking about forming a third political party. He's been tweeting about it a lot, and to tell you the truth, it might have worked too. Even if his party only got a few seats, they could have made a difference, especially when we have a history of passing huge bills with the smallest of margins. Of course, President Trump did not think this was a good idea.
Starting a third party. I think it's ridiculous to start a third party. We have a tremendous success with the Republican Party. The Democrats have lost their way, but it's always been a two-party system. And I think starting a third party just adds to confusion. It really seems to have been developed for two parties. Third parties have never worked. So he can have fun with it, but I think it's ridiculous.
Well, it looks like Elon has also given up on this dream, and apparently he wants to focus on his companies for now. However, keen observers are immediately pointing out that this is likely due to his good connections in the White House. Now people are saying that Elon is likely going to go all in on Vice President Vance in the upcoming election. Of course, that kind of endorsement would pretty much remove all the financial hurdles J.D. Vance might face for his presidential run. But something tells me Elon might not be so keen on donating hundreds of millions of dollars anymore, not after what he went through.
I think in terms of political spending, I'm going to do a lot less in the future.
And why is that?
I think I've done enough.
Yeah, so I saw the story, and as far as I can tell, the story is completely fake. I've never talked with Elon Musk or, frankly, any other donor about 2028. I do think that it would be a huge mistake for Elon to go forward with a third party.
Of course, we won't know anything before the midterms, but this sure looks like a win for J.D. Vance and the GOP as a whole. And while one billionaire abandons his political goals, another one has just taken over the most powerful global organization. I'm of course talking about Larry Fink, who has been appointed co-chairman of the World Economic Forum. He's basically going to be sharing the leadership with Andre Hoffman, who is the vice chairman of Roche. And yes, it's the same company that gave us all those test kits during the pandemic. Of course, both these men have insane views about the world.
I started this platform with my wife some years ago on the principle that we needed to, and we have wrote down the mission on a little panel there, and that we need to accelerate the movement towards a sustainable economy by fostering the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations.
However, Larry Fink is just on a whole nother level.
I could argue in the developed countries, the big winners are countries that have shrinking populations. Okay, that's something that most people never talked about. These countries will rapidly develop robotics and AI and technology. And if the promise, I didn't say it's going to happen, but if the promise of all that transforms productivity, which most of us think it will, we'll be able to elevate the standard of living of countries and the standard of living of individuals, even with shrinking populations.
He's running the biggest investment fund in the world and controls trillions of dollars worth of assets. And we all know he's a crook who's been sucking Americans dry for years now.
What America, in contrast with Europe, is Europe was wealthy people, aristocracy owned all the land, and everybody else was renters or indentured servants or serfs on that land. And in our country, people got their own ownership, and now we're going away from that. And it's not just Smithfield, but it's, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, it's Bill Gates. It's these, big billionaires and giant corporations who have turned our country into a colony, who are turning us, who are buying up the homes in our country. Those three companies own 88% of the S&P 500. And they're now buying our agricultural landscapes, and they're buying our single-family homes and our residential homes. So our kids can't afford to get in a home anymore.
But I think he can see that these same policies don't really work anymore, and the average American is now tired of his actions. But now he can once again do a lot of damage by taking over the WEF, since that organization has a lot of global leaders in its pockets.
What we are very proud of now, the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are for our actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
I've already told you how they're stealing our freedom and even our water one state at a time. However, I think these insane policies are now going to spread much quicker since Larry Fink now runs the World Economic Forum and he loves enforcing behaviors.
You have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race, or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted.
Now, moving on, I want to talk about this radioactive shrimp story.
Today, the FDA recalled radioactive shrimp from Walmart, saying that it could contain cesium-137, a radioactive isotope. So what is that? This chemical is a radioactive byproduct that's produced through activities such as reactor operations, weapons testings, or nuclear accidents. This is a big deal because long-time exposure, even from small amounts like shrimp, can increase your chances of getting cancer. So how did this shrimp become radioactive? Well, it was sourced from Indonesia, and those waters are not radioactive. So the FDA emphasized that the issue is probably linked to processing, packaging, or shipping conditions, saying that a shipping container or warehouse most likely previously held radioactive equipment or materials. Yum. This great value frozen shrimp is being recalled in Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, Mississippi, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Texas, and West Virginia. And Walmart is saying that they feel really bad about it, so they are going to grant you a refund if you bought this. So yay, you're going to get $12.94 back.
Look, it's good that they quickly found out about this contamination, and they're even offering refunds, which is nice. However, my question is, why is all of our food suddenly becoming inedible, and what's with all these large-scale contaminations?
We have breaking and developing news here. They told us grocery shopping is safe. They told us labels can be trusted, but what if that's all an illusion? Right now, massive recalls are hitting your kitchen. Hidden threats you never saw coming. Over 19,000 cases of zero sugar Dr. Pepper were actually packed with real sugar sent out in Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. If you're diabetic, that's dangerous. 1.7 million cartons of organic, cage-free eggs were recalled after a salmonella outbreak. That's a nasty bacteria that's already made dozens sick. More than 250,000 pounds of canned beef stew were pulled because people were finding pieces of wood inside. Yeah, wood. In your dinner. Ground beef from Whole Foods and other stores recalled for E. coli. That's a dangerous bacteria that can cause serious illness. And even bottled mineral water. Topo Chico was recalled after tests found possible Pseudomonas bacteria. Pseudomonas hits people with weak immune systems the hardest. This isn't just one bad batch. This is a full-blown pattern. Eggs, soda, stew, beef, water, all poisoned or mislabeled, all sitting on store shelves. And we only find out after the damage is done. Why weren't these tested before they hit your cart? Why are we trusting mega corporations to self-regulate what we eat and drink? They call it a recall, but by the time they announce it, you've already fed it to your family. This isn't about food. It's about control. carelessness, and consequences. So next time you're walking down the aisle, just remember, every label is a gamble, and your dinner might just be the next headline.
It also seems like our food supply is under attack, and I don't know about you, but the thought of raising my own food sounds pretty good right now. But let's move on from all this food-related stuff and focus on property taxes, because prominent Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene are now openly campaigning against this unjust burden. Of course, people like Ron DeSantis have been raising this issue for a while now.
From the property tax situation, it's very important, given how that's pinched so many homeowners, particularly our senior citizens who have their homes paid off and they bought it 30 years ago for a certain amount. Now they're being told it's worth so much more and they have to pony up more and more money. It's almost like they have to pay rent to the government just to be able to enjoy their property. And that's wrong. And we need to do something about it.
Look, folks, it comes down to this simple question. What's the point of owning a house? Sure, you can say it's an investment or a relatively safe place to park your savings. But at the heart of it, people want to buy a house so they don't have to pay someone else for the roof over their head. Sure, they'll be paying the mortgage, but we all dream about growing old in a house which belongs to us. Well, unfortunately, in the United States, your house is not yours. Even if you pay off the mortgage, you'll still be paying rent to the government in the name of property taxes. For instance, in Illinois, the average home price is about $284,000, and on average, you'll be paying about $7,400 annually in the form of property taxes on that house. And if you still don't believe that your home doesn't belong to you, just look at what happened in New York.
Closer to home, the city of New York takes action against people who don't pay their old tax and water bills. In one case in Brooklyn, that action led to a grandfather losing his home, a home that he had paid off.
In the middle of the night, this is what the Brown family in Brooklyn woke up to. Strangers using power tools to try to get into their home, only to find later those strangers had a legal right to be there.
This man lost his $800,000 home because he failed to pay a $5,000 water bill. And since we know water bills are only going up all over America, how long before more and more Americans start losing their properties? They've screwed us on student loans, they screwed us on credit card debt, and we cannot fix that, but at least we can end this property tax scam. Of course, the local governments will scream and make a fuss, since they will lose a big chunk of their income, but they tend to waste all that money anyway.
I want to address the protesters for a moment, if I could. I think they were chanting, build the rail. It's been 17 years and $16 billion, and no rail has been built. So if you want to go protest somewhere, if you want to shout at someone, go to the governor's mansion. Go talk to Democrats in the legislature who have brought us this crappy project.
Next up, I want to talk about what's been happening on our East Coast. In the last couple of days, Hurricane Aaron turned into a monstrous storm, and it immediately began sending waves into communities situated on the Outer Banks in North Carolina. Luckily, most of these communities have already been evacuated, but if you're in any of these risky areas, you should leave because these storms turn deadly on a whim, and there's often no time to even rescue people. It's also crazy how some people are not heeding the advice to stay out of the water. Have you already forgotten what just happened at Lake Tahoe? You better believe those kinds of waves can hit our shores within hours, so listen to the local authorities and stay safe. Another story I want to share shows just how insane the surveillance situation has become in the UK.
They're watching you even closer now. Fleets of live facial recognition vans are quietly hitting the streets, scanning every face they pass and running it through police watch lists in real time. You don't have to be a suspect. You don't have to be near a crime scene. Just walking past is enough for your identity to be captured, logged, and stored. Officials promise it's only for specific intelligence, but buried in the fine print is the kill switch. In an emergency, they can scan anyone, anywhere, no warrant needed. They call it public safety. Privacy groups call it a rolling dragnet straight out of a Black Mirror episode. And the same leaders who warn against authoritarian surveillance overseas are now deploying it right here, wrapped in friendly PR to make you think it's harmless. This isn't about catching a few bad guys. It's about normalizing a future where the system knows your face before you even see it coming.
And this comes right around the same time when the UK is passing strict laws that require people to verify their age before they get access to go online.
Blue Sky, who banned people who are not age verified from using direct messages because that might be a risk to children, or Reddit, who are closing down a lot of their forums to people who are not age verified. What they're doing is they're saying, well, the only way we can really know whether a child is a child or an adult is to use these age verification tools. And so they're closing stuff down.
Look, I understand you want to protect your kids from the chaos of the online world, but I don't want to upload any private information online just to log into some social media account. We used to read about this kind of surveillance in dystopian novels, and now it's becoming a reality in a place like the UK. Of course, you won't be surprised to know that this kind of information gathering is also part of the globalist agenda. You know what? I just found out something wild about stem cells. Stem cells are like tiny repair crews in your body, and they go out and fix whatever needs to be repaired. But most stem cell therapies are illegal in the United States, not because they're unsafe, but because they work too well, which threatens big pharma. What if you could heal your knees, fix your back, or recover from surgery without pills, insurance, or endless doctor visits? That's bad for profits, which is why the FDA has blocked these treatments, forcing people to go overseas paying up to $50,000 for one stem cell injection. But here's what most people don't know. High flavanol cocoa can naturally boost your own stem cell activity. Studies show it helps stem cells flow from your bone marrow into your bloodstream like bees from a hive. Harvard scientist Dr. William Lee actually backs this up. Check it out.
If you take the really dark chocolate, like 73% cacao, the really dark chocolate, and you make it into a high flavanol hot chocolate drink, and you have it twice a day. This was a clinical study. They found in people who wound up actually drinking the hot chocolate twice a day over the course of a month, they doubled the number of stem cells compared to the people who didn't drink hot chocolate, right? So when you and I were growing up, right, in grade school, we learned from our teachers that starfish can regenerate, salamanders can regenerate, but people can't regenerate.
Yeah,
right?
Can't grow a new arm.
It's true, you can't grow a new arm, but we do regenerate. We regenerate every day. We know that we regenerate because our hair falls out and grows back. Our gut lining grows back. Our livers can grow back. If you actually remove part of your liver, it'll grow back. Our skin grows back. Our bodies possess the ability to regenerate through stem cells.
But here's the thing. Flavanols are the good stuff found in cocoa beans, but they're usually destroyed during the chocolate making process. The good news is that Black Forest Supplements has created the first ever high flavanol cocoa powder packed with everything your body actually needs. It's only 20 calories. I mix it with my coffee every morning and I absolutely love it. It tastes amazing. I mean, this isn't your average cocoa, it's a stem cell power-up. Click on that link below and for the next 48 hours, you can get a whopping 40% off your order. You heard that right, 40% off. We're gonna wrap up today's video right there. We've covered some pretty wild topics topics today, so I want to know what you guys think about all of them. What are your thoughts on property taxes, and did any of you buy those radioactive shrimp? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.